Thank you for being here. Really appreciate it. I'm Whiney Koch. I'm an account manager and content writer with Keystone Click. We are a digital marketing agency. We serve clients in all kinds of industries, but Lori Hybe, the owner, and I both have soft spots for manufacturers. And so that's why we're both so excited to participate in MNI University this year. Lori and I will be doing a separate webinar later this month on the 23rd about marketing mistakes that manufacturers make. So I hope that you consider checking that out too. I'm going to talk about mother-friendly manufacturers and how supporting breastfeeding in the workplace can reduce attrition and actually attract employees, which is something that's very important for manufacturing, especially with the gray wave that they always talk about, and just knowing that there's going to be a large number of workers retiring and, trying to bring more people into our industry. All right, so we will talk about recruitment and retention, lactation policies, lactation spaces, and rooms. Those are sort of the three big buckets that I wanted to address in our time together. And so we'll just go ahead and dive right in. Okay, so when it comes to recruitment and retention, what I really wanted to focus on is what the data tells us in terms of women in the workplace and women in manufacturing. So this is from McKinsey & Company. They did a women in the workplace survey. This is from last year, 2022. Women leaders are significantly more likely than men leaders to leave their jobs because they want more flexibility or because they want to work for a company that is more committed to employee well-being and diversity, equity, and inclusion. And, from my perspective as a working mom and someone who went through the whole breastfeeding, pumping in the workplace, having the flexibility for being able to do that during the workday, having the acceptance from my employer to do that made returning to work a lot easier. Still hard, but it was a lot easier. And it really meant a lot to me on a personal level to know that my employer was, obviously it's a legal requirement, which we'll talk about, but just knowing that they were supporting me in that way certainly made me feel more engaged as an employee. When we look at manufacturing, we have some not so positive statistics. So looking back to 2021, women made up 40% of the American workforce, but only 30% worked in manufacturing. And that's from the US Bureau of Labor Statistics. So women are already a little bit underrepresented in the workforce, in part because of issues with caretaking, returning to work after having a baby, childcare costs, things like that. But women are definitely underrepresented in manufacturing. So there's a lot of room for improvement from the manufacturer side to attract and retain some women employees. When it comes to inclusivity, so we talked about how diversity, equity, and inclusion is really important for women leaders. This goes back to the McKinsey & Company Women in the Workplace study. 83% of millennials report being actively engaged when they believe their organization fosters an inclusive workplace culture. That percentage drops to 60% when their organization does not foster an inclusive culture. So just kind of going back to my own personal experience, I definitely felt that I was more engaged as an employee, knowing that my workplace was, taking steps to include me to be able to come back to work after having my son. I also fall into the millennial age bracket. I think we tend to think of millennials as being younger, but those are Gen Z now, right? So millennials, they are 30, early 40s, kind of prime family having years. So it's really important that we are sure to include them and enact policies that make it possible for them to be part of our workplace and then also be engaged and succeed. continue with inclusivity. So gender diverse companies are 15% more likely to outperform their respective national industry median. So I think this is really important for manufacturing, especially knowing that as an industry, we tend to not be so gender diverse. And so there's an opportunity as an industry, as we hire and retain female employees, that's an opportunity for the industry to grow. And especially coming out of COVID, we talk about reshoring and wanting to strengthen American manufacturing. One way we can work on doing that is by making it possible for more women to join the manufacturing industry. DEI is diversity, equity, and inclusion. Successfully building DEI gives your company a competitive advantage, enabling organizations to better attract and retain the best talent, as well as fostering an atmosphere of belonging where all employees feel welcome and safe. So I know sometimes older generation might think DEI is kind of warm and fuzzy, not really a thing. But when you think about it from a business perspective, it gives you an advantage over competitors, and especially in an older industry, male-dominated industry where DEI efforts are maybe not the norm. If that's something that your company really invests in, you're going to give yourself an advantage over your competitors, and you'll be able to attract and retain better talent overall. And then you'll also be able to attract and retain those women employees that will, again, give you a competitive advantage and really help you grow your company. All right, so one way that you can do that is through lactation policies. Lactation policies are also a way to create a positive workplace culture for working moms especially. So when we talk about things that are, that employers can do to attract and retain employees, you can't control the labor market, right? But there are some things that you can control, and prioritizing what you can control, you can create a positive workplace culture that people actually want to be a part of. So this comes from the Manufacturer's Guide to Finding and Recruiting Talent. So things within an employer's control, when you look at attracting prospects, you can look at your job postings, work on your language, make them more positive. I underlined expand the labor pool because, enacting policies like lactation policies, creating a space for that is a way to open up your labor pool because you're making yourself more attractive to women who are looking for new positions. Competitive wages, actually having an onboarding, that's harder, I think, especially with smaller manufacturers where they've maybe just kind of always done things a certain way and, rely on knowledge of existing employees instead of having written out processes. This is a place where, someone like Dave Chrysler would be amazing to help with processes and writing those things down. And then that bleeds into training. And so when you have an onboarding, you want to have a thorough training process with modules, have the standards of work and paths for your employees, and work on upskilling and, just being overall effective in how you are bringing in employees so that way they can be set up for success. And then once you have those employees, you want to think about what's beyond just their day-to-day. Do you have career ladders? Do you have regular pay increases? Are they tied to performance reviews? Do you offer promotions? What kind of pay system do you have? Is it based on performance? And then your company growth. Are they involved in that? Do they know what's going on? Are you having town halls and including them in some decision making, or listening to their asking for and then listening to their feedback? So those are all things that manufacturing companies can be doing to start attracting a broader pool of talent that will actually want to come into the industry and stay. And so going to things that you can control, I want to talk about a formal lactation policy. So something that you can control as a manufacturer is modernizing your work policies to include a formal lactation policy. So having a formal lactation policy in place could help potential employees see that there's a place for them at your company. And if you're an existing employee, knowing that your employer is understanding and supportive of major life events, right, can give them a sense of pride and loyalty, making them less likely to leave. Speaking from my experience, that was definitely the case. Just knowing, especially in my state, that breastfeeding accommodations are not not the standard, right? Not the norm. There are certainly legal requirements, but to have a formal policy and dedicated space, that's not necessarily typical. There are some more progressive states like California, for example, that have laws requiring companies have a lactation policy. So depending on which state you're in, that would be something that you would want to check and consult with your employment lawyer on as well. So what's in it for you? I mean, it sounds great, right? For the employees, but maybe it doesn't sound so great for the employers. But breastfeeding can actually benefit your business in a few different ways. So one, it can lower medical care costs and health insurance claims. It can reduce absenteeism from the mothers. So, nursing can pass along antibodies to babies, and then that can help them not be sick as often, and it can also help the mother as well. This lowers turnover and will reduce training costs. If you're able to retain employees by offering something like this, you're able to retain those employees, and so you don't have that additional cost of interviewing people, bringing them on, training and onboarding. It can increase productivity that ties into that engagement that we talked about and the company loyalty. And it's also kind of a PR thing, right? You can use it to create a positive image for your business. All right. And so kind of going back to that, depending on your state, there are programs or awards that may be available to you. So it's another way to get some kind of positive PR, positive buzz about your company, put yourself on the map, gain some publicity, and it's a way to attract employees. So for example, my former company, Welker, our legal counsel at the time worked with our employment lawyers to update our employee guide to include a formal lactation policy. And once we had that policy in place, our legal counsel worked with the Department of Health and Human Services, and we became designated a Texas mother-friendly work site. So that signified that we actively promoted and supported breastfeeding from our employees. And on the website, you can go and search for mother-friendly work sites. So it's a way for working moms who are searching for potential employers to sort of filter and narrow their job search. So, it's a way for you to attract maybe a certain type of employee. The logo is something that you could include on your website, put in a press release, share on your social media. So it's, you can reuse that content and share that message in a lot of ways to help attract some employees. There are some other states, let me go back. So Texas has this mother-friendly worksite designation. Illinois also has a program, and so does Missouri from what I could find. So this is an example of a program in the state of Illinois. This is from the Jackson County Health Department Breastfeeding Friendly Certification Awards, and they have a kind of tiered system, and businesses in Illinois can be recognized as breastfeeding friendly through the Breastfeeding is Smart business program. And work sites can either be nominated by someone in the public, a regional breastfeeding task force, or your own employees. And then, I don't know if you can see it well enough, but the awards really kind of show what level of support you give employees. So bronze is sort of like the basic level, the minimum, where you have the flexible work schedule. There is a space for lactating moms to pump. Then you move up to silver, where you meet those bronze requirements, and you have some extras. And the gold, of course, is the top tier where you meet those requirements of bronze and silver. And then you have something extra, like maybe you are providing a medical grade pump, or you're subsidizing that for your employees, or you make educational materials accessible, things like that, kind of really going above and beyond. So returns. So you see those returns in employee wellness, employee satisfaction, and those things then spill over into productivity and customer service. So it has a much broader impact on your business than you might think. So the next step is to talk about the legal requirements. What does state and federal law say that you as the employer have to do? Because you might be wondering, are employers even required to provide, time and space for breastfeeding mothers at work? Do we have to have a lactation policy? So we're going to talk about those things. Okay, so we're going to start with the Fair Labor Standards Act, the FLSA. This was amended back in 2010 to require employers to provide a nursing mother reasonable break time and a place for an employee to express breast milk after the birth of her child. There were some kind of caveats to that. So an employer with less than 50 employees was not subject to these requirements if that would impose an undue hardship. So undue hardship is one of those kind of vague things, really just depending on your own circumstances. And, for a lot of smaller manufacturers, I think they would definitely fall into that bucket, right, of not being subject to those requirements. And then we've recently sort of had an update to that. So back in on December 29th in 2022, President Biden signed the PUMP Act into law. So PUMP stands for Providing Urgent Maternal Protections for Nursing Mothers. Congress really likes those acronyms. So the main difference between the PUMP Act and the FSLA is that employers of all sizes are required to provide a reasonable amount of break time and a clean private space for lactating workers to express breast milk for up to 1 year following the birth of an employee's child. So they just kind of got a little bit stricter than the FSLA. To be excused from complying, employers with fewer than 50 employees must prove that providing that required break time and space would impose an undue hardship. But this is rare, right? So it's much stricter than it was previously, and it provides protection for up to the first year after a child's birth. So there was sort of this period where it was signed into law, and employers had about 4 months to kind of bring everything up to standards before there could be any enforcements or repercussions brought against them. So now that that enforcement provision is in effect, a lawsuit can be filed by an employee right away under certain circumstances. So if an employer violates the break time requirement, if the employer has indicated they have no intention of providing a space for pumping, or if an employee has been fired for requesting break time or space. So now they're able to go and file a lawsuit. If an employee wanted to file a lawsuit for a violation of the lactation space requirement, an employee must first notify the employer and give them time to provide what is needed. So now that that kind of grace period is over, this is kind of open season, right? So most states have some kind of law on the books related to this that's pretty similar to the FSLA or the PUMP Act, but there are a fair number of states that have laws that are even stricter than the PUMP Act. So if you're in any of these states, you need to check the state laws to make sure that you are complying with those as well. Some of them, the main difference was, the protections last longer than a year, for example. New Hampshire has an asterisk because the new laws will be coming into effect in 2025. So other changes or differences in the law might be related to the space or time requirements as well. So definitely check those out. Okay, so now let's talk about lactation spaces and rooms. How does a company become more mother-friendly? Minimum requirements. Employers must provide a space that is functional for expressing breast milk, has a chair and flat surface for pumping equipment, and is shielded from view. Additionally, that space must be free from intrusion, available whenever a mother needs to express milk, and not a bathroom. So the bar is pretty low, like just slightly above the ground. And you are complying with the law. And I can say from personal experience too that, a lot of moms will be happy even with just that, right? Like it doesn't take a lot to make pumping moms feel really happy that their employer is making accommodations for them. Are there any other amenities that you think would be good to have? You can unmute if you want to chime in. Don't have to.
Somewhere to store it would be nice. Somewhere to store the milk.
Yeah, that's a great point.
I was thinking maybe snacks or something just to make it more comfortable.
That's very nice. I like that idea a lot.
Maybe walk, like, when there's that waiting room, not that this is even close to getting a massage, but like a comfortable waiting room where it just gives you respite and maybe some water with lemonade. I don't know, something nice like that.
Yeah, I think that's a really great comparison because pumping, you're more successful as a pumping mom if you feel relaxed. So if you can create an environment that makes that more possible. So, having comfortable seating, having water available to stay hydrated, that's also very important. When you go for a massage, it's usually like dim lighting. Maybe they've got some aromatherapy or relaxing music. Like those are all really nice things that would certainly be appreciated by employees. That's for sure. Did you have something else you wanted to add, Adam? It looked like maybe you wanted to say something. No? Okay.
No, I was just saying, I remember when my wife was doing this, like, I mean, she's kind of dedicated for a while, so something to do, while you're there, whether it be a magazine or it'd be nice if there's a TV or something that you have while you're to occupy your time while you're doing that.
Yeah, that's true. I hadn't thought about that. I always just would take my phone with me. Scroll through Instagram or something. But yeah, having like reading material, and that's, looking back at the state of Illinois and how to get that gold tier, even if it's just having some resources related to breastfeeding. There are plenty of states with, like breastfeeding task forces that have a whole bunch of resources that you could easily print out and make available in there as well. All right. So just knowing that the minimum requirements are really basic, I think it's important to note that, it doesn't even have to be a permanent space. And to comply with laws, the biggest thing is that it can't be a bathroom, right? So breast milk is the baby's food. So you wouldn't go prepare your lunch or eat your lunch in the bathroom, right? Same idea. You can't have your employees expressing breast milk in a bathroom. So all you really need to have is a lockable door, so free from intrusion. You could consider adding portable screens, mobile screens, tall cubicle. There are little pop-up tents. You could have a portable station. There are lots of ways for smaller companies or maybe companies, with little less of a budget to comply with state and federal laws without breaking the bank. There are also some other options. So, you can totally outsource it, right? It's not something that you even have to figure out on your own. There's Mamava, for example. They are actually an American manufacturer based in Vermont. They design and manufacture pods and room solutions. So I have a picture of one of their pods. This is the XL one that's also wheelchair accessible. I saw that at the Chicago Midway Airport. You see these in a lot of airports because they've got like mobile key, you can use your phone for keyless entry and reserve the space and things like that. So on the inside, it's got really everything that the pumping mom would need. And there are smaller ones as well, portable ones. So that way you don't have to take away maybe a meeting space or an office. You could have something like this where it's enclosed and available. Then there is a company called Workin' Mother. So they're based in Texas. They work with landlords to build out lactation suites that have, and so all the building's tenants would have access to the pumping suites, and they also handle the operation of everything. So it's like kind of a fully outsourced solution. Those are obviously much more expensive. They are very, very fancy, very nice, have all the bells and whistles. And there's a company called Healthy Horizons. They have a corporate lactation program. So employers can support their working moms by providing best-in-class service programs. So they're kind of like a consultant. They can help you figure out what you need to comply and then handle the execution of that. So it's not something that, anyone needs to try and figure out on their own. There are companies out there providing the services and then the materials needed, so that way you can be sure to comply. And then there are, of course, some additional touches, right, to kind of go above and beyond, like we were talking about earlier. Some things that would be nice to have, there's a refrigerator. You had mentioned that, Adam. Lockers or like cabinets, electrical outlets. We talked a little bit about comfortable seating, white noise. Some companies provide medical grade breast pumps, so employees only have to bring their bottles and like the connecting parts, so they don't have to worry about having a big old bag that they bring to work with them every day. A mirror, some cleaning supplies, a sink for washing hands before and after, washing up pump parts, etc. And we talked also about having, some information about breastfeeding support. Would definitely be good to have. And I wanted to show you, hopefully it works. At my former employer, I took a couple of short videos to show what we did at Welker. So we didn't have a lot of spare room. We had like an open office environment. And we had a very small conference room that we modified to comply with federal regulations. And I also added in some of those extra touches to make it a more comfortable space. So let me see if it'll work. If I can show you. I might just have to pull it up separately. There we go. And now I'm not sharing the right screen, am I?
Hey guys, I wanted to give you.
All right, let me try this again. Okay.
A quick video tour of our pump room here at Welker, so you can see the small changes that we made to be compliant with the Pump Act. It's pretty simple. So the first thing is we switched out the doorknob to be one that locks. So people can come in here and have privacy and know that nobody's going to barge in on them. This small meeting room is on the outside of our building, and so we've got this window. For privacy, we included a roll down window shade, so that way nobody can look in from the outside. Since this was a small conference room, we already had some seating and a table. We've just rearranged it fairly recently for a new group of pumping moms. A couple other things that we did as a company when I was coming back from maternity leave, we got this little cabinet so that moms could come in and put their supplies so they wouldn't have to carry them back and forth to their office. For this new group of moms, we also purchased some extra milk storage bags. We've got some Sharpies, sticky notes. There's some more bags here just in case they need them. And we keep some tissues on hand. And one thing that I am really happy that we did is we got this mini fridge. So we added some bottled water. Pumping moms really need to make sure that they stay well hydrated. It's a good time to get one during the back to school sales when these mini fridges go on sale for college dorm rooms. So we also purchased this little sound machine. So it's got a timer and it'll turn off automatically when you set it. You can adjust the volume and there's different sound. We got thunder, ocean, brook, summer night, rain, and just white noise. So we got that for a couple of reasons. One, so that the mom can relax more easily, and two, so that way they don't have to worry or be self-conscious about some noise bleed through because we have offices on the other side of these walls.
Okay. So not too complicated, fairly straightforward. We worked with what we had, and it was really minimal in terms of work required, just switching out the logs, adding the shade. Those are pretty minor changes. We used everything else that we had, and buying the fridge and the sound machine, that was maybe $200, maybe. And then I used some of my own funds and
and next I want to show you a
touches.
few things that I, as a kind of lactivist, got on my own to make this space a little cozier. So one thing that I got, and I'll tell you, most of these items I got off of Amazon. I got these little door knob hangers. If the pumping mom wants to use them, one says pumping in progress, the other breastfeeding in progress, in case a mom comes to visit and brings her baby. And they can hang that on the outside of the door if they want, just for some extra privacy. This I actually got at the dollar store. It's just a little magnetic mirror to hang on the mini fridge in case the mom needs to check her clothing or whatever when she is getting ready to come back out to work. Another thing I purchased on Amazon were these thin ice packs that can live up here in the little freezer section of the fridge. This is just sort of just in case a mom forgets. That was always one thing I was super paranoid about, was forgetting my supplies. And I just used a Sharpie and I wrote some encouraging notes on these. So there's a few in here. Last year, we became a certified mother-friendly work site in Texas, and on their website for mother-friendly work sites, they have some great resources, including this that I was just able to download and print off. And I got a dollar store frame and put that there. Also got this little decoration from the dollar store, and same here with this flower. Just used some pink tissue paper, made it look a little pretty. And then I got one of these scent sachets with lavender to go at the bottom, just to give the room kind of a nice, peaceful quality to make it relaxing and pleasant. And the last thing I got is this plush blanket that just lives here on the back of the chair, super soft, cozy. Sometimes the air conditioning in here gets pretty chilly, and so this just is an extra comfort. You can keep it on your lap, drape it around your shoulders, stay nice and warm while you're in here using our pumping room.
All right, thank you for indulging me. All right. So with that, I need to swap screens here. Do y'all have any questions?
I do. The first one is, do you have a copyright on the term lactivist?
I do not. I do not.
That's true. So I do have a serious question though. So for my manufacturing clients, manpower is the biggest thing they struggle with, right? And I know that you saw that you said that this kind of expands the labor pool. For places like Texas and Illinois, it's very easy to have that designation and you can put that up. But for the states that don't have that sort of designation, how would they market themselves as being mother
Mm,
friendly without like, okay, during the interview, I'm going to go show you the lactation room. Like,
sure.
how would they demonstrate that without being so on the nose?
Yeah. Yeah, that's a really great question. I could see that being maybe something on a careers page. You know, a lot of companies will put things like their benefits. I would definitely consider that a benefit, just being upfront about it. And sometimes, you know, in the interview process, you're able to see maybe an employee handbook in advance. So having a formal policy as part of your handbook, you know, then you're there informing employees. They're probably a little bit further along the application process at that point. But yeah, that's a great question. I think also just working on developing that supportive culture, and having that be something maybe that you even just share on social media if you're active on that. You know, you could have something like an Instagram takeover where you've got a female employee coming back to work and this is what my day is like, and hey, it's time for my pumping break.
Oh,
Here's our lactation room. And just whenever you know, if company leaders are on podcasts or LinkedIn live streams talking about their workplace culture, you know, that's going to be part of the culture. That's a selling point. And, you know, whenever you would bring up benefits or positives about your company, I would definitely include that there. You know, if you are doing job postings on LinkedIn or Indeed and listing out benefits, I would put it there. You know, now that we have the Pump Act and it's stricter than the FSLA, I wouldn't see any harm in just putting like, hey, we comply with this, just to acknowledge that we know what it is, and you know, we're being proactive about it. I know in Welker's case, there were employees before me who definitely did not have a space or anything like that. Not sure why that was. We didn't have our formal policy until after I had already stopped pumping, but we had that space set up, and I appreciated that they were being more proactive. There were a few of us who were kind of pregnant at the same time, and they were just really working toward, you know, making some steps to prepare for that instead of being like kind of shell-shocked or unprepared, I guess, during the return. And, you know, for companies that are looking to do that, I would definitely recommend talking to your employment lawyer about what's required in your state. They might also have a better idea of programs that are available, and ways that you could advertise. Even if your state doesn't have a type of designation like Texas does, you know, there might be through the breastfeeding task forces in the state a place to advertise your business as still being breastfeeding friendly if you have, you know, maybe a policy that kind of goes above and beyond. Yeah, I think there's some different avenues that you could go down, just depending on how hard you wanted to go in on that. But I think to start, you know, making sure that you've got it in your handbook and then including that whenever you talk about benefits.
okay. Thanks, Whitney.
Yeah, you're welcome. Anything else?
Whitney, you did a great job. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
It's always wonderful seeing you. It was nice seeing you as well, Adam.
You too, Kirsten.
I enjoyed the presentation. And those are some interesting stats too.
Yeah.
You know, that women make, what was it, 47%
Mhm.
of the American workforce, but only 30% are in manufacturing, and
Yeah.
pretty interesting stats. So
Yeah.
I think there's room there's definitely room you know, to get creative and become more woman friendly, you know, for sure.
Yeah, I think to tie into that comment and then also Adam's question, you know, companies could consider maybe a corporate membership into women in manufacturing. So that would open up membership to all of your employees, not just women. And that would definitely be a benefit, you know, when people are looking to apply, that you're just automatically a member in a national organization and can connect with other women, especially in the industry. Not that it relates directly to breastfeeding, but just showing that you are, you know, committed to supporting women in the industry is a big one. And then there would probably be opportunities through maybe the state's women in manufacturing chapter to go and talk about what it means to be a breastfeeding employer or a breastfeeding friendly work site and how you do it at your company. So more on the local level. But yeah, I know like in the Texas chapter, we organize Zoom panels on specific topics and, you know, always open to having events like that, virtual events. And then women in manufacturing, those virtual events are open to everyone, right? Like you don't even have to be a member of the organization to register and access them. So that would be a great way to also just talk about that and get that out to a larger audience. All right. So I have some resources. If you want to scan the QR code, you're also welcome to email me and I will be happy to send you the kind of little brochure. It's got links to those resources that I cited with the data, also information on the individual states and they're the ones with the stricter laws, states with some mother-friendly resources, links to the videos that I showed. So I'd be happy to share that with you guys and then feel free to share it with whoever you like. Also have a Calendly link if you want to set up a chat. We can talk about mother-friendly businesses or whatever else you like. I'd love to have a conversation with you guys. And we are already connected, but you know, connect with me on LinkedIn and also check us out at Keystone Click. And yeah, as I mentioned, Lori and I will be giving a webinar on the 23rd about marketing mistakes that manufacturers make. So thank you all so much for being here and thank you for sticking with me through the Zoom hiccup.
Oh, no
Nice
problem.
job, Whitney. Very good.
Good job, Whitney. We appreciate you so much. I always love seeing you on my screen, and you really did a nice job here, and that was good stats. And nice to see you, Adam. I signed up for your course as well. I hope y'all have a productive day, but I really enjoyed this presentation. Thanks, Whitney.
Thank you guys so much for being here. Enjoy the rest of your afternoon.